Retired police dog refuses to eat for days when they check security cameras. Everyone's speechless. Sarah Parker stood in her kitchen, morning light filtering through the windows, staring at the untouched bowl of premium dog food. Charlie, their retired police dog, lay in the living room, his dark eyes fixed on something unseen beyond their backyard fence. This was the third day he'd refused to eat. "He's not eating again," she whispered to her husband, Mark, who watched from the doorway, concern etched on his weathered face. Their 12-year-old daughter Emily knelt beside Charlie, her small hand gently stroking his black and tan coat. The German shepherd's ears remained alert, his body tense with an urgency they couldn't understand. That night, the security cameras captured something extraordinary. Charlie stood at attention in the backyard, his posture rigid as he faced the woods. Then, with deliberate precision, he began to dig. But it wasn't the digging that made Sarah's blood run cold. It was the shadowy figure watching from the tree line, a figure that seemed hauntingly familiar to their loyal guardian. No one could have guessed that this moment would unravel a 6-year-old mystery, one that would test the bonds of family, challenge the meaning of justice, and reveal that sometimes the greatest acts of heroism come from those who cannot speak. The Parker home stood on Maple Avenue, a quiet street lined with century-old oak trees in the historic district of Winchester, Massachusetts. It was a modest 2-story colonial with faded blue shutters and a wraparound porch where Sarah Parker spent her Sunday mornings, coffee in hand, watching the neighborhood come to life. At 38, Sarah had built a reputation as one of the most respected veterinarians in the area, operating a small but thriving practice just 10 minutes from home. Her auburn hair, often pulled back in a practical ponytail, framed a face that carried both warmth and determination, traits that served her well in both her professional and personal life. Mark Parker, at 40, had found his calling as a high school history teacher at Winchester High. His classroom walls were adorned with historical photographs and maps. Much like the study in their home, students appreciated his ability to bring the past to life through storytelling, a gift that had also made him an exceptional father. His steady presence and quiet strength had become the family's anchor, especially during challenging times. Their daughter Emily, 12 going on 30 as Mark often joked, possessed an old soul's wisdom wrapped in youth's endless enthusiasm. She inherited her mother's auburn hair and her father's thoughtful blue eyes, but her compassion for animals was entirely her own. Since Charlie's arrival 6 months ago, Emily had appointed herself his primary caregiver, meticulously maintaining a journal of his habits, preferences, and quirks. She recorded everything from his favorite sleeping spots to the way his ears twitched when he heard distant sirens. The Parkers had moved to Winchester 5 years ago, seeking a smaller community after the hectic pace of Boston life became too overwhelming. Their home, built in 1910, needed work, but its character and history spoke to them. The spacious backyard, which backed up to a protected woodland area, had been a major selling point. They'd never imagined this peaceful setting would become the stage for such an extraordinary mystery. Sarah's veterinary background had made her the perfect candidate when the K9 retirement program was looking for homes for their retiring service dogs. Her experience with traumatized animals, combined with their stable home environment, put them at the top of the list. When they first met Charlie, there was an immediate connection. The German shepherd's dignified bearing and gentle interaction with Emily had sealed the deal. The family had settled into a comfortable routine over the past 6 months. Mark left early for school, Emily caught the bus at the corner, and Sarah split her time between her practice and home visits. Charlie had seamlessly integrated into their lives, becoming the guardian they never knew they needed. He walked Emily to the bus stop every morning, patrolled the yard with military precision, and seemed to sense when any family member needed emotional support. Their neighbors had quickly grown accustomed to the sight of the retired police dog, his presence adding an extra layer of security to the already safe neighborhood. Children would wave as they passed, and other dog walkers would respectfully give him space, understanding his professional background demanded a certain protocol. But now, as Sarah watched Charlie's increasingly strange behavior, she couldn't shake the feeling that their peaceful life was about to change dramatically. The dog that had brought such joy and stability to their home was trying to tell them something, and the weight of that unspoken message hung heavy in the air. As a family, they had faced challenges before, but nothing had prepared them for the mystery that was about to unfold in their own backyard. Charlie's story began at the Winchester Police Department's K-9 Training Academy in 2016. From the moment Officer James Jim Anderson first laid eyes on the young German Shepherd, he knew this dog was different. Charlie possessed an exceptional combination of intelligence and empathy, rare traits that would define his remarkable career in law enforcement. Officer Anderson, a veteran K-9 handler with 15 years of experience, recognized Charlie's potential during their first training session. While other dogs excelled in either tracking or protection work, Charlie mastered both with equal proficiency. His ability to switch from fierce protector to gentle companion impressed even the most seasoned trainers. By graduation, Charlie had set new department records in evidence detection, suspect apprehension, and obstacle course completion. Their first major case came just 3 months into service. A 5-year-old girl had wandered away from a local park during a family picnic. As hours passed and temperatures dropped, hope began to fade. But Charlie picked up a scent where other K-9 units had failed, tracking the child through 2 miles of dense woodland. They found her huddled under a fallen tree, cold but unharmed. The image of Charlie gently nudging the girl awake, then lying beside her until paramedics arrived, became legendary within the department. Over the next 5 years, Charlie and Officer Anderson became the department's most decorated K-9 team. They specialized in missing persons cases, developing an almost mystical reputation for finding people when all other methods failed. Charlie seemed to possess an uncanny ability to read human emotions, often sensing when a suspect was about to flee or when a victim was nearby. This intuition saved countless lives and earned him the nickname the Guardian among his fellow officers. Their partnership extended beyond work hours. Charlie lived with Anderson, becoming part of his family and forming a deep bond with his 2 teenage daughters. Together they participated in community outreach programs, visiting schools and teaching children about police work. Charlie's gentle demeanor with children made him a natural ambassador for the department's community relations efforts. However, everything changed during a cold November night in 2023. While pursuing a suspect in a domestic violence case, Officer Anderson and Charlie were ambushed. In the chaos that followed, Anderson took a severe fall down a ravine while protecting Charlie from an armed assailant. Though Charlie successfully apprehended the suspect and stayed with his injured partner until help arrived, the incident left Anderson with a career-ending injury. The department initially planned to reassign Charlie to another handler, but it quickly became apparent that the bond between dog and officer ran too deep. Charlie became withdrawn, refusing to work with other handlers. After careful consideration and consultation with veterinary experts, the decision was made to retire him from active duty. The search began for a suitable home, one that would understand both his law enforcement background and the emotional trauma he had experienced. When the Parkers applied to adopt Charlie, his story resonated deeply with Sarah. Her experience with traumatized animals and the family's stable environment made them ideal candidates. The deciding factor came during their first meeting, when Charlie immediately bonded with young Emily, showing a gentleness that reminded everyone of his work with children. Now, 6 months into his retirement, Charlie had seemed to adjust well to civilian life. Yet beneath his calm exterior, he carried the memories, training, and instincts of his years in service. These weren't just habits to be unlearned, they were part of who he was, a guardian who had dedicated his life to protecting others. And as recent events would prove, those instincts had not dulled with retirement. Maple Grove, a historic district within Winchester, Massachusetts, held on to its small-town charm despite being just 12 miles from Boston's bustling heart. The neighborhood centered around a traditional town square, where locally owned shops had operated for generations under the watchful gaze of a Civil War memorial. Here Charlie had become more than just a retired police dog. He had become a living connection between the community and its law enforcement heritage. Chief Robert Thompson, a 30-year veteran of the Winchester Police Department, had personally overseen Charlie's transition to civilian life. His office walls still displayed photographs of Charlie's achievements, including the dramatic rescue of the young girl in Middlesex Forest. The chief had initially expressed reservations about retiring such a valuable asset, but watching Charlie adapt to life with the Parkers had convinced him they'd made the right decision. Margaret Wilson, who ran the corner bakery her grandmother had opened in 1945, always kept a special treat ready for Charlie's morning walks. She remembered how Charlie and Officer Anderson had once caught a burglar trying to break into her shop after hours. That dog's got more sense than most people," she often declared to customers, pointing to the newspaper clipping she'd framed above the register. The local elementary school had incorporated Charlie's story into their Community Helpers curriculum. Teacher Elizabeth Bennett invited Sarah Parker and Charlie for monthly visits, teaching children about responsible pet ownership and the important role of police dogs in community safety. The students had even started a Charlie's Heroes Club, dedicated to supporting local animal shelters. Frank Miller, the town's retired postmaster, had witnessed Charlie's law enforcement skills firsthand during a bank robbery in 2021. "That dog moved like lightning," he would recount at town meetings, "but what really impressed me was how he stayed calm and focused, just like his partner." Frank now made it his daily routine to check on Charlie through the Parkers' fence, often bringing along his grandchildren who adored the gentle shepherd. The local newspaper, the Winchester Herald, had covered Charlie's retirement extensively. Editor-in-chief Patricia Reynolds maintained a special interest in his well-being, having lost her own son to a tragic accident years ago, a case where Charlie and Officer Anderson had provided crucial support during the investigation. She understood better than most the deep emotional connections Charlie forged with those he served. Even the town's younger residents felt Charlie's influence. Teenagers at Winchester High, where Mark Parker taught, would often stop by the Parker house to visit. Many remembered Charlie from their elementary school days when he participated in DARE programs and safety demonstrations. His presence had helped bridge the often tense relationship between local youth and law enforcement. Yet not everyone in Maple Grove viewed Charlie's presence with universal admiration. Thomas Green, the newly appointed city councilman, had recently questioned the resources spent on retiring police dogs, suggesting they could be better utilized elsewhere. His criticism sparked heated debates at town meetings, though most residents staunchly defended the K-9 retirement program. As Charlie's recent strange behavior became the talk of the town, the community's protective nature emerged. Neighbors began reporting unusual activities near the Parkers' property to the police. The local neighborhood watch, led by retired Marine James Cooper, increased their patrols. Even skeptics like Councilman Green couldn't ignore the growing sense that something significant was unfolding in their quiet community. The Winchester Herald had started receiving letters from residents sharing their own Charlie stories, tales of kindness, heroism, and unwavering dedication. These accounts painted a picture not just of a remarkable police dog, but of a community member who had touched countless lives. As Sarah Parker would later reflect, Charlie had become a thread in the fabric of Maple Grove, weaving together the past and present of a community that still believed in the power of loyalty, service, and justice. The changes in Charlie's behavior began subtly, almost imperceptibly, during the first week of June. Sarah Parker first noticed his decreased appetite during their usual morning routine. Charlie, who had always enthusiastically devoured his breakfast, began approaching his bowl with hesitation. Initially, she attributed this to the summer heat, but her professional instincts suggested something deeper was troubling him. As a veterinarian, Sarah maintained detailed records of Charlie's health. Her notes from those early days revealed a pattern. Charlie would stand at attention near the back fence for hours, his ears perked forward, body tense with an alertness reminiscent of his service days. During these episodes, he ignored even Emily's attempts to engage him in their usual games. Mark observed that these periods of vigilance occurred most frequently during the early morning hours and just before dusk. The nighttime disturbances started soon after. Charlie, who had always slept peacefully in Emily's room, began pacing the house after midnight. His nails clicked against the hardwood floors as he moved from window to window, occasionally emitting low growls that seemed to emanate from deep within his chest. The family would find him in the morning, stationed at the back door, his eyes fixed on something beyond their property line. Sarah's first professional assessment revealed nothing physically wrong with Charlie. His temperature was normal, reflexes sharp, and blood work came back clean. Yet his behavior grew increasingly concerning. He refused his favorite treats, even the special cookies Margaret Wilson baked just for him. During his daily walks, he would suddenly stop, nose twitching, before trying to lead Emily toward the woods behind their property. The most alarming incident occurred during a thunderstorm in mid-June. As lightning illuminated the sky, Charlie's demeanor changed dramatically. Instead of seeking comfort in Emily's room as he usually did during storms, he stood guard at the back door, emitting a series of sharp, urgent barks, not the typical reaction of a dog frightened by thunder, but the calculated warning signals of a K-9 officer who had detected a threat. Mark began documenting Charlie's behaviors on video, hoping to identify a pattern. The footage revealed something extraordinary. Charlie's nighttime patrols followed a precise routine, similar to his old search patterns from his service days. He would systematically check each ground floor window, pause at specific points in the yard, and return to what appeared to be predetermined observation posts. Emily, displaying wisdom beyond her years, started keeping her own journal of Charlie's behaviors. Her entries painted a picture of a dog torn between his retirement and an invisible call to duty. She noted how his ears would prick up at specific times, how his body would tense when cars drove slowly past their house, and how he seemed to be listening for something only he could hear. The Parkers consulted Dr. James Harrison, a veterinary behaviorist specializing in retired service animals. His assessment was both professional and troubling. Charlie isn't displaying typical anxiety or age-related changes. These are calculated responses to something specific, something he's been trained to recognize and respond to. By late June, Charlie's weight had dropped noticeably. Despite Sarah's efforts to tempt him with specially prepared meals, he would only eat the minimum necessary to maintain his strength. His once glossy coat had lost some of its luster, though his eyes remained sharp and alert. During his daily health checks, Sarah noted that his muscle tension and alertness suggested he was preparing for action, much like he had during his active service years. The breaking point came during the last week of June. Charlie, who had always been gentle and patient with neighborhood children, began actively herding them away from certain areas of the street. He positioned himself between them and the woods, his body language communicating clear boundaries. When questioned about this behavior, Officer Anderson, who occasionally visited his former partner, recognized it immediately. That's his protection stance. He only did that when he sensed genuine threat. As June turned to July, the Parkers faced a difficult reality. Their beloved family pet was trying to tell them something, drawing on years of specialized training to communicate a message they couldn't yet understand. The question wasn't just what Charlie was trying to tell them, but whether they would decipher his warnings in time. The decision to install security cameras came after careful deliberation at the Parker family dinner table. Mark had initially suggested it, more to monitor Charlie's nighttime activities than out of any sense of threat. They chose a sophisticated system that covered both the yard and the wooded perimeter with infrared capabilities for nighttime recording. The first night's footage revealed nothing unusual, just Charlie's methodical patrols. However, on the second night, at precisely 2:17 a.m., the recordings captured something that made Sarah's blood run cold. A figure, tall and lean, stood motionless at the edge of the woods. The infrared camera showed the heat signature clearly, but the person's features remained obscured by the dense foliage. Charlie, visible in the frame, stood rigidly at attention, neither barking nor retreating. Detective Michael Reynolds, a longtime colleague of Officer Anderson, reviewed the footage the next morning. His trained eye noted several concerning details. The figure's stance suggested military or law enforcement training, and their positioning indicated familiarity with the property's layout. Most tellingly, the person seemed to be observing rather than trespassing, maintaining a calculated distance from the property line. The following nights established a pattern. The figure would appear between 2 and 3 a.m., always maintaining the same position. Charlie's response remained consistent, alert, but not aggressive, suggesting he might recognize the scent. When Sarah shared this observation with Detective Reynolds, his expression darkened. "In all my years working with K-9 units," he said, "I've never seen this type of sustained recognition behavior without cause." The breakthrough came during a rainstorm in early July. The weather had driven most of the neighborhood indoors, but Charlie's agitation increased dramatically. The cameras caught something new. The mysterious figure had moved closer to the property, perhaps believing the rain provided better cover. For the first time, they could make out details: worn hiking boots, military-style cargo pants, and a distinctive limp in their right leg. Chief Thompson authorized increased patrols in the area, but the figure seemed to anticipate police movements, appearing only during gaps in coverage. Officer Patricia Martinez, who had trained alongside Anderson, noted that this level of surveillance awareness suggested inside knowledge of police protocols. The situation escalated when the cameras captured a second figure joining the first, exactly 1 week later. This new person was shorter, moved with greater urgency, and appeared to be carrying something. Charlie's behavior changed markedly during these encounters. He began digging at specific spots in the yard, particularly near the old oak tree that marked the property's boundary. Emily, displaying remarkable composure for her age, began correlating Charlie's behavior with the camera footage. She noticed that his digging intensified on nights when both figures appeared, and he consistently chose locations that lined up with their observation points. Her detailed notes would later prove invaluable to the investigation. The most disturbing footage came during the third week of surveillance. The cameras captured one of the figures placing something at the base of a tree just beyond the property line. Charlie's reaction was immediate and unprecedented. He began barking in a pattern that Officer Anderson later identified as an old K-9 unit distress signal, one that hadn't been used by the department in years. Sarah and Mark spent countless hours reviewing the footage, looking for patterns or clues they might have missed. They noticed that the figures never appeared on nights when Officer Anderson visited Charlie, suggesting they were monitoring not just the property but the family's visitors as well. By the end of July, they had accumulated over 100 hours of footage. The evidence painted a clear picture. These were not random appearances but calculated observations by individuals with specific interest in either the property or Charlie himself. The precision of their movements, their awareness of police patterns, and their apparent familiarity with K-9 protocols pointed to a connection with law enforcement, past or present. The connection to the Jacob Miller case emerged through a chance conversation at the Winchester Police Department's weekly briefing. Detective Reynolds, while reviewing the security footage from the Parker residence, recognized something in the taller figure's distinctive gait. It matched his memories of Thomas Miller, Jacob's uncle, who had disappeared 6 years ago during the height of the investigation. Jacob Miller's disappearance in 2018 had shaken the Winchester community to its core. The 10-year-old vanished while walking home from Winchester Elementary School, just 3 blocks from his house. Officer Anderson and Charlie had led the initial search, working tirelessly through 48 hours of rain and dropping temperatures. The case had particular significance as one of their first major assignments together. The investigation revealed troubling details about Jacob's home life. His mother, Catherine Miller, struggled with prescription drug dependency, while his stepfather, Richard Bennett, had a sealed record of domestic disturbances in another state. Thomas Miller, Catherine's brother and a former military intelligence officer, had expressed concerns about Jacob's safety to Child Protective Services just weeks before the disappearance. Officer Anderson and Charlie had tracked Jacob's scent to Middlesex Forest, where it abruptly vanished near an abandoned ranger station. The discovery of Jacob's backpack, carefully placed rather than dropped, suggested the disappearance might not have been a random abduction. Inside, investigators found a handwritten note. Sometimes protection means breaking rules. The handwriting matched Thomas Miller's. The case took a dramatic turn when Officer Anderson and Charlie encountered Thomas Miller near the ranger station 3 days into the search. The confrontation ended with Anderson's injury, a fall that would eventually force his retirement. Thomas disappeared into the forest, and despite an extensive manhunt, no trace of him or Jacob was ever found. The case remained open, marked by a series of dead ends and unanswered questions. Chief Thompson had kept the case file active, convinced that Thomas Miller's military background and local knowledge made him capable of remaining hidden indefinitely. The discovery that the Parkers' property bordered the same section of Middlesex Forest where Jacob's trail had gone cold added a new dimension to Charlie's recent behavior. Sarah's veterinary records revealed another connection. Catherine Miller had briefly worked as a receptionist at her clinic years before, though Sarah hadn't made the connection until Detective Reynolds mentioned the case. Catherine had often spoken about her brother Thomas, describing him as the only stable presence in Jacob's life. She'd resigned shortly before Jacob's disappearance, leaving no forwarding address. The investigation had ultimately stalled due to conflicting evidence. While Thomas Miller's actions suggested a planned intervention rather than a malicious abduction, the injury to Officer Anderson had forced the department to treat him as a dangerous suspect. The case divided the department, with some officers believing Thomas had acted to protect his nephew, while others saw him as a dangerous vigilante. Charlie's involvement in the original case added another layer of significance to his current behavior. As Detective Reynolds noted, the dog's reaction to the mysterious figures suggested recognition rather than threat assessment. Charlie had spent considerable time with both Thomas and Jacob Miller during the initial investigation, as Thomas had frequently visited the station to check on its progress. The most compelling connection emerged when Emily discovered an old photograph while researching the case in the Winchester Herald's archives. The image showed Officer Anderson and Charlie at a community event 2 weeks before Jacob's disappearance. In the background, Thomas Miller could be seen watching the K-9 demonstration, his stance matching that of the figure now appearing on their security footage. More importantly, the photo showed him wearing the same type of military boots that had left distinctive prints near the Parkers' property line. The investigation transformed the Parker household in unexpected ways, deepening relationships as they united around a common purpose. Emily, exhibiting maturity beyond her 12 years, established herself as Charlie's primary advocate. She converted her science fair project into a detailed study of his behavior patterns, meticulously documenting every change in his routine. Her dedication impressed even veteran officers who visited to review the security footage. Sarah found herself drawing on both her professional expertise and maternal instincts as she balanced Charlie's health concerns with the investigation's demands. During late-night vigils, she would sit on the back porch with Charlie, speaking softly to him as he maintained his watch. These quiet moments revealed subtle changes in his behavior that others might have missed: the slight tilt of his head when certain names were mentioned, his instantaneous alertness at specific sounds from the forest. Mark's initial skepticism about Charlie's behavior evolved into deep respect for the dog's unwavering dedication. His background as a history teacher proved unexpectedly valuable as he researched similar cases involving retired police dogs. He began spending his evenings in the local library, piecing together newspaper articles about the Miller case and creating detailed timelines that helped investigators understand the broader context. The family developed new routines around Charlie's surveillance schedule. They took turns monitoring the security feeds, sharing meals in the living room where they could watch both Charlie and the property's perimeter. Emily started doing her homework on the floor beside Charlie's favorite observation post, reading her essays aloud to him as he kept his vigil. These simple acts of companionship seemed to help maintain his strength, despite his continued reluctance to eat normally. Their shared concern for Charlie bridged generation gaps and created deeper understanding within the family. When Emily expressed fear about the mysterious figures in the woods, Mark and Sarah didn't dismiss her worries. Instead, they involved her in their discussions with law enforcement, valuing her observations and insights. This respect for her contributions fostered a new level of trust between parents and child. Sarah's professional commitment to Charlie's health sometimes conflicted with her emotional investment in the investigation. After particularly long nights of surveillance, she would find herself torn between the need to maintain his routine medical care and her desire to let him continue his self-appointed mission. These moments of internal conflict brought her closer to Mark, who provided steady support and helped maintain perspective when the situation felt overwhelming. The investigation also revealed new dimensions of their relationships. Emily discovered her mother's strength went far beyond professional competence, watching as Sarah advocated fiercely for Charlie with law enforcement officials who initially dismissed their concerns. Mark's students would later comment on how his teaching became more engaging as he incorporated lessons about justice and perseverance drawn from their ongoing experience. Their dining room transformed into an operations center with maps and timeline charts covering the walls. Family dinner conversations evolved from casual daily recaps into strategic planning sessions. Even their youngest member contributed meaningfully to these discussions, with Emily's detailed behavior logs providing crucial insights into patterns the adults might have overlooked. Throughout this period, Charlie remained the heart of their household, his unwavering focus on his mysterious mission drawing them together in shared purpose. His dedication inspired similar commitment from each family member, creating bonds strengthened by shared challenges and mutual support. As Sarah noted in her journal during this time, Charlie isn't just protecting our home, he's teaching us what it means to be a family. The transformation of Maple Grove's response to Charlie's situation unfolded gradually but decisively. Margaret Wilson, the proprietor of Wilson's Bakery, first mobilized community support by organizing a neighborhood watch specifically focused on the wooded area behind the Parker residence. Her initiative, born from decades of community leadership, quickly gathered momentum among local business owners and residents. The Winchester Herald's editor, Patricia Reynolds, dedicated a weekly column to updates about the investigation, carefully balancing public interest with the sensitivity required for an ongoing case. Her measured reporting helped maintain community awareness while respecting law enforcement's need for discretion. The paper's coverage sparked a series of letters to the editor, each sharing personal stories about Charlie's service to the community over the years. Retired Marine James Cooper restructured his security consulting business to accommodate regular patrols of the neighborhood. His team of former military personnel established observation posts at strategic locations, coordinating their efforts with local law enforcement. Their professional expertise proved invaluable in documenting suspicious activities and maintaining detailed surveillance logs. The local elementary school, where Charlie had once conducted safety demonstrations, became an unexpected hub of support. Principal Eleanor Matthews organized an educational program about service animals, incorporating Charlie's story into lessons about community service and civic responsibility. Students began writing letters to Charlie, which Emily would read to him during his evening watches, the simple words of encouragement seemingly brightening his demeanor. Winchester High School's Technology Club, under Mark Parker's guidance, developed a digital mapping system to track and analyze Charlie's patrol patterns. The students' innovative approach to data visualization helped investigators identify correlations between Charlie's behavior and reported sightings of the mysterious figures. Their work earned recognition from the police department's technical division. Local veterinarians, inspired by Sarah's dedication, established a support network to monitor Charlie's health. Dr. Rachel Anderson, a specialist in canine behavioral medicine, provided regular consultations at no cost, recognizing the broader implications of Charlie's case for understanding retired service animals. Her detailed reports helped convince skeptical officials that Charlie's behavior warranted serious investigation. The community's financial support manifested through the establishment of the Charlie's Guardian Fund at Winchester Community Bank. President Thomas Richardson waived all administrative fees, ensuring that every dollar contributed went directly to supporting the investigation and Charlie's care. Local businesses organized fundraising events, from Margaret Wilson's Cookies for Charlie campaign to the high school's charity car wash. Even former critics of the K-9 retirement program revised their positions. Councilman Thomas Green, previously vocal about the program's costs, publicly acknowledged the value of retired service dogs after witnessing Charlie's determined vigilance. His change of heart influenced the city council to allocate additional resources to the investigation. The local church communities united in their support, with Reverend Michael Stanford of First Presbyterian organizing an interfaith prayer vigil for Charlie's mission. The event drew hundreds of residents, transcending religious boundaries and strengthening community bonds. The gathering demonstrated Maple Grove's transformation from a collection of neighbors into a unified force supporting the investigation. Most significantly, residents began sharing information about unusual activities they had observed in the months before Charlie's behavioral changes. Mrs. Eleanor Thompson, whose garden bordered the woods, recalled seeing fresh boot prints in her flower beds. Mr. David Harrison, a retired postal worker, reported irregular patterns in local mail delivery that suggested surveillance of the neighborhood. This groundswell of community involvement created an extensive network of observers, each contributing to a broader understanding of the situation. Their collective efforts supported law enforcement while maintaining the delicate balance between vigilance and vigilantism. As Chief Thompson noted in his weekly briefing, the community's response has transformed a local investigation into a model of civic cooperation. Officer James Anderson's return to the investigation brought crucial insights into Charlie's past work. Leaning heavily on his cane, Anderson spent hours at the Parker residence, observing his former partner's behavior with a trained eye. His presence seemed to energize Charlie, who maintained his vigilant watch but now displayed subtle signals that only Anderson could interpret. During one particularly significant evening, Anderson shared detailed records from his time with Charlie, including cases that never made the official reports. He revealed that Charlie had encountered Thomas Miller multiple times before Jacob's disappearance, notably during community outreach programs at Winchester Elementary. Charlie never showed aggression toward Thomas. Anderson explained, even during the final confrontation. That's extremely unusual for a K-9 officer facing a suspect. Sarah's review of her veterinary clinic's records uncovered another significant connection. Catherine Miller, Jacob's mother, had not merely worked as a receptionist, she had confided in Sarah about her brother's concerns regarding Jacob's home situation. The clinic's incident reports documented suspicious injuries that Catherine had explained away, though Sarah had noted her discomfort with these explanations in the margins. Detective Reynolds' investigation into Thomas Miller's military background revealed an exemplary service record in military intelligence, specializing in surveillance and extraction operations. More importantly, his unit had worked extensively with military working dogs, explaining his understanding of K-9 behavior patterns. This expertise suggested that the current surveillance of the Parker property employed military-grade tactics rather than civilian methods. The Winchester Herald's archives provided another crucial link. A series of letters to the editor, published in the months before Jacob's disappearance, described systematic failures in the local child protection system. Though published under pseudonyms, text analysis strongly suggested Thomas Miller's authorship. The letters demonstrated his growing frustration with official channels and his conviction that direct intervention might become necessary. Chief Thompson's personal files contained unreleased details about Anderson's injury during the Forest confrontation. The official report cited an accidental fall, but Anderson's private statement described something different. "Thomas didn't push me," the statement read. "He tried to prevent my fall. Charlie knew it, that's why he didn't engage. We were wrong about what happened that night." Emily's research into Charlie's training records revealed an interesting pattern. During his initial K-9 training, Charlie had demonstrated unusual behavior when encountering scenarios involving children in distress. Rather than following standard apprehension protocols, he consistently chose protective positioning, placing himself between the child and perceived threats. This same behavior now manifested in his interactions with neighborhood children near the woods. Local historian Margaret Bennett contributed valuable context about the property's history. The Parkers' home and the surrounding woodland had once belonged to the Miller family. Thomas and Catherine had spent their childhood exploring these same woods, giving Thomas intimate knowledge of the terrain. This connection explained his ability to move undetected through the area and suggested why Charlie's attention focused on specific locations. Most significantly, Anderson's review of Charlie's final cases before retirement uncovered a pattern. Several assignments had involved domestic situations similar to Jacob's, and Charlie had exhibited similar protective behaviors. These cases often ended with child removals from unsafe environments, establishing a precedent for Charlie's current vigilance. As these connections emerged, a clearer picture formed of the events leading to Jacob's disappearance and Charlie's current behavior. The dog's actions suggested not just recognition of past individuals but an understanding of past motivations. His current vigilance appeared less like a retired K-9 officer's routine and more like a continuation of an unfinished mission. The discovery that changed the course of the investigation occurred during an unseasonably cold August morning. Charlie's persistent digging near the old oak tree at the property's edge had created a pattern that Officer Anderson recognized from their previous search protocols. After consulting with Chief Thompson, the department authorized a formal excavation of the area under Detective Reynolds' supervision. The excavation team arrived before dawn, working methodically in the growing light. Sarah and Mark Parker stood watch from their back porch, Emily between them, as Charlie sat alertly near the dig site. His posture remained rigid, eyes fixed on the excavation team's movements with an intensity that suggested more than casual interest. At precisely 7:42 a.m., the team's equipment struck something solid. What they uncovered sent ripples through the investigation: a waterproof military-grade storage container, carefully sealed and buried approximately 3 feet below the surface. The container's preservation suggested recent placement rather than long-term storage. Inside, wrapped in protective material, they found items that connected directly to the Jacob Miller case: a child's notebook filled with detailed observations about his home life, a series of photographs documenting concerning incidents, and most significantly, a letter addressed to Officer Anderson and Charlie. The letter, written in Thomas Miller's distinctive handwriting, provided context that had been missing from the original investigation. I've watched you and Charlie work at Reed. You understand that sometimes protection requires difficult choices. What you find here explains why I had to act. I trust you'll know what to do when the time comes. The date on the letter indicated it had been written just days before Jacob's disappearance. Forensic analysis of the container's contents revealed careful preparation. Each item had been deliberately chosen and preserved, suggesting this wasn't a hasty burial but part of a planned strategy. The photographs, dated and annotated, created a timeline of escalating concerns about Jacob's welfare. Most troubling were the medical records, copied from official sources, documenting a pattern of injuries inconsistent with the explanations provided. Detective Reynolds focused particularly on the notebook, recognizing it as crucial evidence of premeditation. The entries, written in Jacob's childish hand, described his uncle's growing concerns and their secret meetings in the school library. Uncle Thomas says sometimes we have to keep secrets to stay safe. One entry read, "He's teaching me about emergency plans, just like they do in the Army." The most revealing items were the audio recordings stored on a well-protected digital device. They captured conversations between Jacob and his uncle, discussing what they called their escape plan. Thomas's military training was evident in how he prepared Jacob, teaching him survival skills while maintaining the pretense of a game. The recordings reinforced the emerging narrative that Jacob's disappearance had been a calculated rescue rather than an abduction. Charlie's behavior during the excavation proved remarkable. He maintained his position near the dig site, occasionally approaching to sniff specific items as they were cataloged. His reactions to certain pieces, particularly the letter, drew Officer Anderson's attention. He remembers Anderson noted, "This isn't just recognition, he's connecting past and present events." The discovery forced a re-evaluation of the entire case. Chief Thompson called an emergency meeting of the investigation team, including the Parkers, whose property had become central to understanding Thomas Miller's actions. The evidence suggested a complex narrative of protection rather than criminality, challenging the department's original conclusions and raising difficult questions about their handling of the case. The evidence from the buried container prompted Detective Reynolds to reopen Thomas Miller's military service files, revealing a decorated career specializing in child trafficking investigations. His expertise had focused particularly on rescuing minors from dangerous domestic situations, skills that seemed to inform his actions regarding Jacob. The files painted a picture of a man driven by a profound sense of duty to protect the vulnerable. A deeper investigation into Richard Bennett, Jacob's stepfather, uncovered sealed records from 3 different states. These documents revealed a disturbing pattern of domestic incidents, carefully concealed through strategic relocations and legal maneuvering. Bennett's marriage to Catherine Miller had coincided with her increasing dependency on prescription medication, a combination that created an environment of escalating risk for Jacob. Officer Anderson's review of Thomas Miller's communications with Child Protective Services exposed systematic failures in the system. Miller had filed 17 separate reports over 8 months, each meticulously documented but ultimately dismissed due to insufficient evidence or procedural complications. His final report, submitted 3 days before Jacob's disappearance, included photographs that should have triggered an immediate investigation. Catherine Miller's medical records, obtained through court order, documented a series of emergency room visits in the months leading up to Jacob's disappearance. The attending physicians had noted inconsistencies in her explanations, but her professional standing and Bennett's persuasive presence had deflected deeper scrutiny. Thomas Miller's military training logs showed he had observed these hospital visits, documenting patterns that the medical staff had missed. School records provided additional context. Jacob's teachers had noted behavioral changes consistent with trauma, but Bennett's role as a prominent donor to the school board had complicated their ability to report concerns. Thomas Miller's military expertise had allowed him to recognize these indicators and document them with professional precision, creating a comprehensive record of escalating danger. The most compelling evidence emerged from interviews with Jacob's former classmates, now teenagers. They recalled specific incidents: Jacob's reluctance to go home, unexplained absences following Bennett's business trips, and hushed conversations with his uncle in the school library. One student remembered Thomas Miller teaching Jacob what he called safety games, recognized now as survival training disguised as play. Financial investigations revealed Bennett's carefully constructed facade of respectability concealed significant gambling debts and connections to questionable business ventures. Thomas Miller's surveillance logs, found among the buried evidence, documented late-night meetings with known criminals, suggesting Jacob's home situation carried risks beyond domestic violence. Catherine Miller's private journal, discovered in the container, revealed her growing awareness of the danger but also her paralysis in the face of Bennett's manipulation. Her entries described Thomas's attempts to help her leave, offers she had rejected out of fear and drug dependency. The final entry, dated the day before Jacob's disappearance, read, "Thomas says he can protect Jacob. Maybe that's the best I can hope for now." Sarah Parker's veterinary records contributed unexpected verification. Catherine had brought the family dog to the clinic showing injuries consistent with abuse, often offering explanations that paralleled those given for Jacob's injuries. Thomas Miller had accompanied them once, his military bearing and focused questions drawing Sarah's attention enough to make detailed notes that now corroborated his concerns. The evidence painted a clear picture. Thomas Miller had employed his military training not to harm but to rescue, documenting everything with the precision of an intelligence officer preparing for eventual scrutiny. His actions, viewed through this new lens, revealed a desperate but calculated attempt to protect his nephew when all legal channels had failed. The revelations about Thomas Miller's actions and the circumstances surrounding Jacob's disappearance created immediate reverberations throughout Winchester. The Winchester Herald published a comprehensive front-page story that transformed public perception overnight. Patricia Reynolds' careful reporting presented the evidence with measured precision, focusing on the systematic failures that had forced Thomas Miller's desperate intervention. Winchester Police Department faced intense scrutiny as details emerged about their handling of Thomas Miller's numerous attempts to work through official channels. Chief Thompson called a press conference to address the community's concerns, acknowledging that departmental protocols had prioritized procedure over protection. "We operated within our guidelines," he stated, but failed to see the larger pattern that Mr. Miller had documented so meticulously. The local legal community responded with professional concern. District Attorney Robert Hamilton announced a comprehensive review of all domestic cases handled during Bennett's time in Winchester. The Winchester Bar Association established a pro bono task force to examine similar cases where wealth and influence may have impeded proper investigation of abuse allegations. Richard Bennett's business associates quickly distanced themselves. The Winchester Country Club revoked his membership, and several local boards requested his immediate resignation. His carefully constructed social network unraveled as former defenders confronted the weight of evidence regarding his true nature. The Winchester Business Association removed his name from their annual achievement awards. Catherine Miller's situation generated complex public reactions. While many condemned her failure to protect Jacob, mental health professionals from Winchester General Hospital spoke out about the intricate dynamics of abuse and addiction. Dr. Elizabeth Stanford, head of Addiction Services, organized public education sessions to help the community understand how seemingly responsible adults could become trapped in cycles of dependency and fear. The educational community experienced particular turmoil. Winchester Elementary's administration faced harsh criticism for their handling of Jacob's situation. Principal Margaret Thompson resigned, acknowledging that concerns about donations had influenced the school's response to warning signs. The school board implemented immediate policy changes, establishing clear protocols for reporting suspected abuse regardless of parental status or contribution history. Faith communities played a significant role in shaping public response. Reverend Michael Bradford of First Presbyterian Church dedicated his Sunday sermon to moral courage, using Thomas Miller's actions to illustrate the complex nature of ethical decisions. The Interfaith Council organized support groups for community members struggling to reconcile their previous judgments with newly revealed truths. Local veterans rallied to support Thomas Miller's reputation. Colonel James Davidson, retired, spoke eloquently about Miller's distinguished service record and expertise in child protection operations. The Veterans Association established a scholarship in Miller's name, dedicated to supporting studies in child advocacy and protection services. The case sparked broader civic engagement. City council meetings overflowed as residents demanded reform of child protection services. Councilwoman Patricia Martinez proposed the Miller Protocol requiring multiple agency review of abuse allegations involving influential community members. The initiative gained immediate support from professional organizations across the state. Charlie's role in bringing these truths to light elevated him from beloved local figure to symbol of unwavering dedication to justice. The Winchester Gazette's editorial board praised his persistence, noting that his behavior had initiated the investigation that human institutions had failed to pursue. His story became a powerful reminder that justice sometimes requires looking beyond conventional procedures. The intensity of the investigation began taking its toll on the Parker family in subtle but significant ways. Sarah noticed the strain first in Emily, whose dedication to monitoring Charlie's nighttime vigils affected her school performance. The 12-year-old's usual enthusiasm for science projects dimmed as she focused exclusively on documenting Charlie's behavior, leading to concerned calls from her teachers about incomplete assignments and decreased classroom participation. Mark faced mounting pressure at Winchester High School, where Richard Bennett's connections influenced the administration's view of his involvement in the investigation. The school board, still dealing with the fallout from Bennett's donations, subtly suggested that Mark's continued public association with the case might affect his upcoming tenure review. His department head began reassigning his advanced placement classes to other teachers, citing concerns about his external commitments. Sarah's veterinary practice suffered as wealthy clients, many connected to Bennett's social circle, quietly transferred their pets to other clinics. The practice's income dropped 30% in a single month, forcing her to reduce her staff's hours. Her professional reputation, built over 15 years, faced scrutiny from colleagues who questioned her involvement in what they termed a criminal investigation. Charlie's health declined notably as autumn approached. Despite Sarah's medical expertise, his weight continued dropping, and his once lustrous coat became dull. Blood tests revealed elevated stress markers, and his sleep patterns grew increasingly erratic. Sarah found herself torn between her duty to protect Charlie's health and her commitment to uncovering the truth he seemed desperate to reveal. The family's home life transformed as security measures intensified. The installation of additional surveillance equipment turned their colonial home into something resembling a military installation. Emily's friends stopped visiting, their parents concerned about the constant police presence and media attention. The backyard, once a space for family barbecues, became a restricted area marked by evidence flags and security perimeters. Financial pressures mounted as the investigation consumed their resources. The sophisticated security system, additional veterinary tests for Charlie, and legal consultations quickly depleted their savings. Mark's reduced teaching schedule and Sarah's declining practice created a perfect storm of financial stress, forcing them to consider selling their vacation cottage in Maine. The most profound impact manifested in their family dynamics. Dinner conversations, once filled with stories about their day, became strategy sessions focused on evidence analysis and security protocols. Emily's childhood bedroom transformed into a makeshift command center, her stuffed animals replaced by case files and surveillance logs. The carefree family moments that had characterized their life before Charlie's discovery disappeared under the weight of their mission. Their marriage faced unprecedented strain as Sarah and Mark disagreed about how far to pursue the investigation. Mark's concerns about Emily's well-being and their financial stability clashed with Sarah's unwavering determination to support Charlie's mission. Their late-night discussions grew tense, filled with unspoken fears about the cost of their commitment to uncovering the truth. Emily's emotional resilience, initially remarkable, began showing cracks. She developed anxiety about leaving Charlie alone, leading to panic attacks when required to attend school events. Her nightmares, featuring shadowy figures in the woods, prompted the school counselor to recommend professional intervention. The bright, outgoing child who had first welcomed Charlie into their home became withdrawn, her world narrowing to the confines of their increasingly fortified property. Through it all, Charlie's unwavering focus on his mysterious mission served as both inspiration and source of guilt. His dedication to protecting them, even as his health declined, created an emotional burden that weighed heavily on the family. Sarah often found herself awake at night, watching him maintain his vigil, torn between pride in his determination and fear for his survival. The investigation encountered significant bureaucratic resistance as it expanded beyond Winchester's jurisdictional boundaries. Detective Reynolds' requests for access to sealed records in neighboring counties met with deliberate delays and administrative obstacles. Each application for information required multiple approvals, creating a frustrating cycle of paperwork that threatened to stall the investigation's momentum. Weather conditions complicated the physical investigation of the property. Unprecedented autumn rain saturated the ground, making it impossible to conduct thorough searches of key areas Charlie had identified. The forensics team struggled to preserve evidence as water levels rose, forcing them to construct temporary shelters over excavation sites. The weather pattern, unusual for New England, created a sense of urgency as potential evidence faced environmental degradation. The investigation's timeline faced additional pressure from impending statutory limitations. Legal experts advised that certain aspects of the case would become inadmissible if not properly documented and filed within specific timeframes. This legal constraint forced investigators to prioritize certain leads over others, potentially missing crucial connections in their haste to meet deadlines. Technical challenges emerged as the surveillance equipment struggled with the dense forest environment. The sophisticated cameras designed for urban settings proved less effective in capturing clear images through the thick foliage. The team's attempts to upgrade the equipment encountered procurement delays and budget constraints, leaving gaps in their surveillance coverage. Officer Anderson's health complications further impacted the investigation's progress. His expertise in interpreting Charlie's behavior patterns proved irreplaceable, but his doctors advised reducing his involvement due to increasing physical strain. The team struggled to document his institutional knowledge quickly enough, recognizing that his insights into past events were crucial to understanding the present situation. Internal resistance within the police department created additional complications. Several senior officers, concerned about potential liability issues from the original investigation, attempted to limit access to historical case files. Their procedural objections required Chief Thompson to navigate complex departmental politics while maintaining the investigation's momentum. The media attention, initially helpful in gathering public support, began interfering with the investigation's operational security. Local reporters, eager for updates, inadvertently compromised surveillance positions by attempting to photograph the property. The investigation team had to divert resources to manage media presence, establishing strict protocols for information release. Financial constraints began affecting operational capabilities. The department's budget, already stretched thin, couldn't sustain the intensive investigation indefinitely. Essential equipment maintenance was delayed, forensic testing backlogs grew, and overtime hours for key personnel had to be reduced. The team increasingly relied on volunteer support from retired law enforcement officers to maintain surveillance coverage. Coordination between multiple agencies created its own set of challenges. The FBI's involvement, while providing additional resources, introduced new layers of bureaucracy. Local and federal protocols sometimes conflicted, requiring time-consuming reconciliation. Information sharing between agencies suffered from incompatible systems and security clearance issues. The investigation's complexity strained available analytical resources. The volume of historical data, surveillance footage, and new evidence overwhelmed the department's processing capabilities. Analysts worked double shifts trying to identify patterns and connections, but the backlog of unprocessed information continued growing. The team feared crucial details might be overlooked in their rush to process everything. The investigation faced mounting skepticism from influential members of Winchester's establishment. District Attorney William Harrison publicly questioned the allocation of police resources to what he termed a speculative investigation based on a retired police dog's behavior. His weekly briefings increasingly highlighted other urgent cases requiring attention, implying that the investigation was diverting resources from more pressing matters. The Winchester Police Department's Internal Affairs Division launched a review of the original Jacob Miller case, focusing particularly on Officer Anderson's handling of the confrontation with Thomas Miller. Their preliminary report suggested procedural violations that could potentially invalidate new evidence. This development created tension within the department, as younger officers supporting the current investigation found themselves at odds with senior officials concerned about departmental reputation. Local media coverage took an increasingly critical tone. The Winchester Tribune published a series of editorials questioning the credibility of using a retired police dog's behavior as a basis for reopening a cold case. These articles, authored by journalists with known connections to Richard Bennett's social circle, emphasized the cost to taxpayers and suggested that emotional attachment to Charlie had clouded professional judgment. The Winchester Bar Association raised legal concerns about the investigation's methods. Several prominent attorneys, including those who had previously represented Bennett's business interests, filed formal complaints about the surveillance of private property and the use of military-grade security equipment in a residential area. Their legal challenges threatened to restrict the investigation's scope and methods. Academic criticism emerged from unexpected quarters. Dr. Jonathan Roberts, a renowned veterinary behaviorist from Boston University, published a paper questioning the reliability of interpreting retired police dog behavior in cold cases. His analysis, though theoretical, provided ammunition for those seeking to discredit the investigation's foundation. The Winchester City Council's Budget Committee initiated a detailed audit of expenses related to the investigation. Councilman George Peterson, known for his fiscal conservatism, demanded justification for every expenditure. His persistent questioning during public sessions created a perception of financial impropriety, despite Chief Thompson's transparent accounting. Professional resistance intensified within the law enforcement community. Several neighboring police departments declined requests for cooperation, citing concerns about methodology and resource allocation. Their reluctance to share information created significant gaps in the investigation's regional perspective. Social pressure began affecting key witnesses. Former colleagues of Thomas Miller, who had initially provided supporting statements, withdrew their cooperation after experiencing professional and personal backlash. Their retreats from previous testimonies complicated efforts to establish Miller's credibility and intentions. The investigation's technological aspects faced particular scrutiny. Privacy advocates challenged the extensive surveillance network, arguing that it set a dangerous precedent for residential areas. Their concerns, though legitimate, threatened to dismantle crucial monitoring systems before they could yield results. Even the veterinary community, initially supportive of Sarah Parker's involvement, began distancing itself. The State Veterinary Board launched an inquiry into her professional judgment, questioning whether her emotional investment in Charlie's case had compromised her clinical objectivity. This professional challenge threatened not only the investigation but her entire career. The discovery of Thomas Miller's fate delivered the first devastating blow to the investigation. A sealed military report, finally obtained through Officer Anderson's connections, revealed that Miller had succumbed to injuries sustained while protecting Jacob during their initial escape. The report detailed how Miller, despite being wounded, had ensured Jacob's safe passage to a predetermined location before attempting to mislead pursuers, ultimately sacrificing himself to secure his nephew's safety. Officer Anderson's deteriorating health condition reached a critical point during a crucial phase of the investigation. During a late-night surveillance session, he suffered a severe collapse that required immediate hospitalization. The doctors discovered that his previous injury, sustained during the confrontation with Miller, had worsened significantly due to his intense involvement in the current investigation. His forced withdrawal from the case removed their most experienced interpreter of Charlie's behavior patterns. Charlie's physical decline accelerated dramatically as autumn progressed. Despite Sarah's medical intervention, his weight dropped to dangerous levels, and his once keen senses showed signs of fatigue. During one particularly cold night, he collapsed while maintaining his vigil, requiring emergency veterinary care. The diagnosis was clear: the strain of his self-imposed mission was overwhelming his aging body. The investigation team suffered another significant loss when Detective Michael Reynolds was removed from the case. His unwavering support of the investigation, despite pressure from superiors, led to his forced administrative leave. The official reason cited procedural violations, but his personal notes left in Sarah's care revealed a systematic attempt to suppress evidence supporting Miller's actions. Catherine Miller's tragic overdose in a rehabilitation facility complicated the investigation's progress. Her detailed written confession, discovered among her personal effects, provided crucial validation of Thomas Miller's motivations but arrived too late to prevent his reputation's destruction. Her loss eliminated the possibility of her testimony regarding Bennett's activities and her brother's protective interventions. The Winchester Police Department's K-9 training facility, where Charlie and Officer Anderson had first partnered, faced closure due to budget cuts directly related to the investigation's costs. This development threatened to end the department's entire K-9 program, dismantling a legacy of service that had produced partnerships like Charlie and Anderson's. The facility's impending shutdown symbolized the institutional resistance to acknowledging past mistakes. Emily Parker's emotional trauma manifested in increasingly concerning ways. Her dedication to supporting Charlie's mission led to academic suspension after she refused to attend school, fearing for his safety in her absence. The school psychologist's report highlighted the deep emotional impact the investigation had on the young girl, recommending immediate intervention to prevent long-term psychological effects. The investigation team's integrity suffered a severe blow when key evidence disappeared from the police department's secure storage. The missing items included Thomas Miller's original reports to Child Protective Services and documentation of Bennett's previous domestic incidents. This loss of crucial evidence suggested internal sabotage and demoralized the remaining supporters of the investigation. Sarah's veterinary practice faced permanent closure after her professional insurance was revoked, citing her emotional involvement in a criminal investigation as grounds for termination. The prospect of losing her life's work, built over decades of dedicated service, threatened not only her career but also her ability to provide the specialized care Charlie desperately needed. The mounting pressure of the investigation created deep fissures within the Parker household. Mark's tenure denial at Winchester High School forced an impossible decision: continue supporting the investigation or secure his family's financial future by accepting a position at a prestigious private school in Connecticut. The offer came with one clear condition: complete disassociation from the Miller case and Charlie's investigation. Sarah confronted her own professional crisis as her veterinary practice faced bankruptcy. Long-term clients, many influenced by Bennett's social circle, withdrew their business. The practice's revenue declined by 60%, forcing her to terminate loyal staff members. The emotional toll of these dismissals weighed heavily on her, particularly when her senior veterinary technician of 15 years tearfully cleared out her locker. Emily's academic performance deteriorated dramatically. Her teachers reported complete disengagement from classroom activities, noting that she spent lessons sketching detailed maps of the property and documenting Charlie's behavior patterns. The school administration, already strained by the investigation's impact on their reputation, suggested Emily's temporary withdrawal to focus on her emotional well-being. The family's financial reserves reached critical levels. Legal fees, specialized veterinary care for Charlie, and the sophisticated surveillance equipment had depleted their savings. The mortgage payment became a monthly struggle, and discussions about selling their home, the center of the investigation, created bitter arguments between Sarah and Mark during late-night kitchen conferences. Relationships with extended family members became strained. Sarah's parents, concerned about their granddaughter's well-being, suggested taking Emily to live with them in Vermont until the situation resolved. This proposition created deep resentment, particularly when they implied that Sarah's dedication to Charlie's mission bordered on obsession. Mark's sister, a child psychologist, expressed professional concerns about Emily's emotional state, leading to heated exchanges during family gatherings. The investigation's demands transformed their home life beyond recognition. The dining room table disappeared under case files and surveillance equipment. Emily's childhood bedroom became a monitoring station, her stuffed animals relegated to boxes in the basement. The backyard, once a space for family gatherings, resembled a crime scene with its evidence markers and security perimeters. Charlie's deteriorating health created additional family tension. Sarah's insistence on continuing aggressive treatment protocols, despite their substantial cost, led to increasingly frequent arguments with Mark about financial priorities. Emily's emotional attachment to Charlie complicated these discussions, as she interpreted any suggestion of limiting his care as a betrayal of his dedication to their cause. The community's divided response affected the family's social connections. Longtime friends chose sides, leading to painful exchanges at school functions and community events. Emily lost several close friendships when parents, concerned about the investigation's controversial nature, discouraged their children from visiting the Parker home. The isolation deepened the family's internal struggles. Mark and Sarah's marriage faced unprecedented strain. Their communication devolved into terse exchanges about schedules and expenses, losing the warmth and partnership that had characterized their relationship. They found themselves advocating opposing positions, Mark's pragmatic concern for their family's stability clashing with Sarah's unwavering commitment to uncovering the truth. The investigation reached a critical juncture when crucial evidence disappeared from the police department's secure storage facility. The missing items included Thomas Miller's original military service records, documentation of his reports to Child Protective Services, and the recently discovered photographs that substantiated his concerns about Jacob's welfare. Detective Reynolds discovered the breach during a routine evidence review, immediately recognizing the systematic nature of the removal. Internal Affairs launched an investigation into the missing evidence, but their approach suggested a predetermined conclusion. Their preliminary report focused on procedural errors in evidence handling rather than investigating the possibility of deliberate tampering. Chief Thompson found himself increasingly isolated within his own department as support for the investigation eroded under mounting administrative pressure. The Winchester Herald published a damaging expose questioning the investigation's legitimacy. The article, citing anonymous sources within the police department, suggested that Charlie's behavior had been misinterpreted and that the entire investigation stemmed from the Parker family's emotional attachment to their retired police dog. The story particularly emphasized the financial burden on taxpayers and the disruption to community life. Sarah Parker's veterinary license faced suspension pending a review by the state board. The formal complaint, filed anonymously, questioned her professional judgment in continuing to allow Charlie's involvement in the investigation despite his declining health. The timing and language of the complaint suggested coordination with other efforts to discredit the investigation. Officer Anderson's medical condition deteriorated significantly following his review of the missing evidence report. His doctors attributed the decline to stress and ordered complete withdrawal from all investigation-related activities. His forced retirement removed the investigation's strongest link to the original case and its most credible interpreter of Charlie's behavior patterns. The technological infrastructure supporting the investigation began failing systematically. Security cameras malfunctioned, surveillance equipment produced corrupted data, and the sophisticated monitoring systems experienced unexplained interference. The pattern of failures suggested deliberate sabotage rather than random technical issues, but proving this assertion became impossible as evidence disappeared. Financial support for the investigation evaporated as local businesses withdrew their contributions to the support fund. The remaining resources barely covered essential operations, forcing the team to abandon crucial forensic analysis and specialized equipment maintenance. The financial strain compromised the investigation's ability to pursue new leads or protect existing evidence. Emily Parker's school situation reached a crisis point when the administration demanded her immediate withdrawal, citing concerns about her emotional stability and the disruptive influence of her continued documentation of Charlie's behavior. The threat of involuntary removal forced the family to consider alternatives that would separate Emily from Charlie during this critical phase. Charlie's health entered a precipitous decline that appeared to correlate with the disappearance of evidence. His weight dropped dangerously low, and his once keen senses showed signs of severe fatigue. Yet he maintained his vigilant watch, seemingly understanding that his mission faced a critical threshold. Sarah's professional expertise proved insufficient to halt his physical deterioration while supporting his determined surveillance efforts. The investigation team faced a stark reality: without new evidence or substantial breakthrough, the case would collapse entirely. The systematic dismantling of their work suggested a coordinated effort to suppress the truth about Jacob Miller's disappearance and Thomas Miller's actions. As hope faded, the team confronted the possibility that their pursuit of justice might end in failure, leaving Charlie's mission unfinished and the truth permanently buried. The investigation's turning point arrived through an unlikely source. District Attorney William Harrison, who had publicly criticized the investigation, requested a private meeting with Chief Thompson. During this confidential session, Harrison revealed that his initial skepticism had masked a deeper personal connection. His own sister had vanished 20 years ago in circumstances disturbingly similar to the Miller case. This revelation transformed one of the investigation's strongest critics into a powerful ally. Harrison's support manifested immediately through his office's resources. His team of investigators began reviewing archive cases, discovering a pattern of similar disappearances where evidence suggested protective intervention rather than criminal intent. These cases, spanning 3 decades, shared common elements with Thomas Miller's actions, suggesting a previously unrecognized underground network dedicated to protecting at-risk children. The Winchester Police Department's younger officers, led by Lieutenant Sarah Martinez, organized a silent revolution within the force. They volunteered their off-duty hours to maintain surveillance operations, using their personal equipment to replace the compromised department systems. Their dedication attracted attention from retired law enforcement officials, who began offering their expertise and resources to support the investigation. A breakthrough emerged from an unexpected quarter when Dr. Elizabeth Warner, the state's leading forensic accountant, approached the investigation team. Her analysis of Richard Bennett's financial records revealed a complex pattern of transactions linking him to several cases of witness intimidation and evidence tampering. This financial trail provided the first concrete evidence of active interference with the current investigation. The local media landscape shifted dramatically when Patricia Reynolds of the Winchester Herald received anonymous documentation substantiating Thomas Miller's military service in child protection operations. The materials included classified mission reports detailing Miller's successful interventions in cases where traditional legal channels had failed to protect vulnerable children. Reynolds' subsequent series of articles began reshaping public opinion. Former skeptics within the law enforcement community started reconsidering their positions when Officer Anderson's complete medical records became public. The detailed documentation of his injuries sustained during the confrontation with Miller confirmed his long-held assertion that Miller had attempted to prevent his fall rather than cause it. This evidence challenged the official narrative that had portrayed Miller as violent and dangerous. Charlie's behavior patterns gained new significance when Dr. James Morrison, a renowned expert in canine cognition, volunteered to analyze the surveillance footage. His research suggested that Charlie's actions followed a sophisticated search protocol specifically designed for locating hidden evidence. This professional validation transformed Charlie from a sympathetic figure into a credible investigative asset. The Winchester Veterinary Association publicly defended Sarah Parker's professional judgment, presenting research data supporting the reliability of trained police dogs' behavioral indicators even after retirement. This professional vindication helped restore Sarah's credibility and secured continued specialized medical support for Charlie despite his declining health. The investigation received unprecedented community support when local technology companies offered their advanced surveillance equipment to replace the compromised systems. This corporate involvement brought sophisticated analytical capabilities that helped identify patterns in Charlie's behavior that had previously gone unnoticed. These developments created momentum that became increasingly difficult for opponents to resist. The convergence of professional validation, community support, and concrete evidence transformed the investigation from a controversial pursuit into a legitimate inquiry backed by credible authorities and substantive documentation. The discovery of Thomas Miller's complete diary transformed the investigation's understanding of events. Found concealed within a false wall of the old ranger station, the leather-bound journal contained detailed observations spanning the months before Jacob's disappearance. Miller's precise military documentation style provided a comprehensive record of his growing concerns about Jacob's safety and his systematic attempts to work within legal channels before taking direct action. The diary revealed Miller's careful preparation for protecting Jacob. Each entry detailed his growing evidence collection, his coordination with a network of child protection advocates, and his methodical development of secure locations where Jacob could be safely housed. Miller had leveraged his military experience in witness protection to create an underground support system for children failed by traditional protective services. Catherine Miller's personal correspondence, recovered from a safety deposit box accessed through her final instructions, provided crucial context about her brother's actions. Her letters described her desperate attempts to protect Jacob while trapped in a cycle of dependency and fear. She detailed Bennett's systematic isolation tactics and his subtle threats, explaining why she had initially rejected her brother's offers of help. Officer Anderson's original case notes, preserved by his wife and delivered to the investigation team, contained vital information about the night of the confrontation. His detailed observations recorded Thomas Miller's attempts to communicate critical information about Jacob's situation even as the situation escalated. The notes revealed that Miller had tried to share evidence of immediate threats to Jacob's safety before circumstances forced him to take direct action. A series of encrypted emails discovered on Miller's military laptop provided evidence of a broader support network. The communications detailed how former military and law enforcement personnel had created a sophisticated system for protecting children when legal channels proved ineffective. These records demonstrated that Miller's actions were part of a carefully organized response to systemic failures in child protection services. Jacob's own written account, maintained in a coded diary throughout his time in hiding, emerged through the investigation. His perspective painted a picture of a child who had actively participated in planning his escape, understanding the dangers he faced at home. The diary entries revealed his trust in his uncle's protection and his relief at escaping an increasingly threatening environment. Financial records unsealed through District Attorney Harrison's intervention exposed Bennett's elaborate network of influence. The documents detailed systematic payments to key officials, explaining the repeated dismissal of abuse allegations and the suppression of evidence. These records provided concrete proof of corruption that had prevented earlier intervention through official channels. Medical documentation from a rural clinic, where Miller had taken Jacob for examination after their departure, validated concerns about the child's welfare. The examining physician's detailed notes cataloged historical injuries consistent with long-term abuse, supporting Miller's assessment of imminent danger to his nephew's safety. Charlie's behavior patterns, when mapped against the newly discovered evidence, revealed an extraordinary connection to the case. His focused attention on specific locations corresponded precisely with sites mentioned in Miller's diary, suggesting that his military training had enabled him to recognize signs of Miller's carefully planned rescue operation. The convergence of these various evidence streams created an irrefutable narrative of Thomas Miller's actions as a desperate but calculated attempt to protect a child from immediate danger. The documentation demonstrated how official channels had been systematically blocked, forcing Miller to utilize his military expertise in a final effort to ensure Jacob's safety. The Winchester community's response to the emerging truth manifested in a remarkable display of collective action. The Winchester Herald published a comprehensive series examining the systematic failures that had forced Thomas Miller's intervention. Editor Patricia Reynolds carefully researched articles transformed public understanding, presenting evidence that revealed how wealth and influence had compromised the community's protective systems. Professional organizations throughout Winchester mobilized to address the exposed vulnerabilities. The Bar Association established a pro bono legal clinic specifically focused on child protection cases, ensuring that financial constraints would never again prevent thorough investigation of abuse allegations. Local attorneys volunteered their services, creating a network of legal advocates dedicated to protecting vulnerable children. The medical community, led by Winchester General Hospital, implemented new protocols for identifying and reporting suspected abuse. Dr. Elizabeth Stanford developed a comprehensive training program for healthcare providers, incorporating lessons learned from the Miller case. The hospital's board of directors allocated significant resources to support this initiative, demonstrating institutional commitment to preventing similar failures. Winchester's educational institutions underwent substantial reform. The school board adopted stringent new policies prohibiting private donations from influencing administrative decisions regarding student welfare. Teachers received specialized training in recognizing signs of abuse, and the district established an independent review board to evaluate all safety concerns raised by school personnel. Local law enforcement experienced a cultural transformation. Chief Thompson implemented mandatory training programs focusing on complex child protection cases, using the Miller investigation as a case study. The department established a specialized unit dedicated to investigating abuse allegations, ensuring that future cases would receive thorough, uncompromised attention regardless of the accused's social status. The business community demonstrated unprecedented solidarity. The Winchester Chamber of Commerce implemented strict ethical guidelines for member organizations, explicitly prohibiting the use of financial influence to obstruct justice. Companies that had previously aligned with Bennett publicly committed to supporting child protection initiatives, allocating significant resources to community safety programs. Religious and civic organizations united to create the Winchester Child Protection Network, a cooperative initiative providing comprehensive support services for at-risk children and families. The network incorporated lessons from Miller's military expertise in protecting vulnerable individuals, creating secure channels for reporting concerns and accessing assistance. Local technology companies contributed their expertise to developing advanced monitoring systems for child protection services. These systems, inspired by the investigation's challenges, incorporated sophisticated safeguards against tampering and ensured transparent documentation of all reported concerns. The innovation demonstrated how private sector resources could enhance public safety initiatives. The veteran community, particularly moved by Miller's service record and sacrifice, established a foundation supporting children affected by domestic violence. The organization provided safe houses and therapeutic services, implementing protocols developed through Miller's military experience in protecting vulnerable individuals. Their involvement added crucial expertise to the community's protective resources. This unified community response created lasting structural changes in Winchester's approach to child protection. The collective acknowledgement of past failures, combined with concrete actions to prevent their recurrence, demonstrated how a community could transform tragedy into positive systemic change. The Miller case became a catalyst for developing comprehensive child protection measures that would serve as a model for other communities. The culmination of the investigation centered on Charlie's increasingly focused attention on a specific section of Middlesex Forest. Despite his deteriorating health, the retired police dog maintained an unwavering vigil toward an area that satellite imagery revealed contained an abandoned ranger station. Detective Reynolds noted that this location aligned perfectly with coordinates found in Thomas Miller's recovered military journal. Chief Thompson organized a coordinated search operation, bringing together local law enforcement, search and rescue specialists, and forensic experts. The operation commenced at dawn on a crisp October morning, with Charlie leading the team, despite his weakened condition. Sarah Parker and Officer Anderson accompanied the search party, their medical expertise necessary to monitor Charlie's health during this crucial phase. The ranger station's exterior appeared unchanged since the original investigation 6 years earlier, but Charlie's behavior indicated significant alterations to the surrounding terrain. The dog's methodical movement patterns, reminiscent of his active service days, guided forensic teams to specific locations where ground-penetrating radar revealed recently disturbed soil beneath carefully maintained native vegetation. As excavation began, the team discovered a sophisticated hidden storage system. Military-grade waterproof containers, secured with coded locks matching the encryption key found in Miller's journal, contained comprehensive documentation of Bennett's criminal activities. The evidence included financial records, surveillance photographs, and detailed reports of systematic abuse, all preserved with military precision. The most significant discovery emerged from a concealed underground chamber, constructed using military engineering techniques. Inside, investigators found a complete tactical operations center, equipped with communications equipment and surveillance monitors. The facility's design matched specifications from Miller's military training manuals, demonstrating how he had adapted his professional expertise to protect his nephew. Charlie's behavior became increasingly animated as the search progressed to a specific section of the chamber. His persistent indication of a particular wall panel led to the discovery of a hidden compartment containing videotaped testimony from Jacob himself. The recordings, dated throughout his time in hiding, documented his experiences and validated Miller's protective intervention. The technological analysis of the facility revealed an elaborate security system designed to protect sensitive information until proper authorities could ensure its safe recovery. Miller had implemented protocols requiring specific sequences of events before evidence would become accessible, explaining why previous searches had failed to locate these crucial materials. Sarah noticed Charlie's demeanor shift significantly as each discovery emerged. His posture relaxed gradually, suggesting a recognition that his mission was approaching completion. Officer Anderson, observing his former partner's behavior, noted that Charlie displayed the same satisfaction he had shown after successful operations during his active service. The facility also contained detailed contingency plans for Jacob's protection, including multiple secure locations and a network of trusted contacts. These documents revealed how Miller had leveraged his military experience in witness protection to create a comprehensive safety network for his nephew, demonstrating the careful planning behind his apparent disappearance. As the evidence collection concluded, Charlie led the team to one final location. Beneath a carefully concealed marker, they discovered a sealed letter addressed to Officer Anderson, explaining Miller's complete strategy and expressing hope that the truth would eventually emerge through the combined efforts of dedicated professionals and a loyal police dog who never abandoned his duty. The evidence from the ranger station facility precipitated an immediate response from the district attorney's office. William Harrison convened an emergency grand jury session, presenting the comprehensive documentation of Bennett's criminal activities. The proceedings revealed a complex network of corruption extending through multiple levels of local government and law enforcement, each compromised through sophisticated financial manipulation. Bennett's arrest occurred during an early morning operation at his country club, where he had maintained a facade of normalcy despite mounting pressure from the investigation. Detective Reynolds, leading the arrest team, noted the stark contrast between Bennett's cultivated public image and the evidence of his systematic abuse of power. The arrest warrant detailed 37 specific charges ranging from child endangerment to obstruction of justice. A simultaneous operation targeted Bennett's associates who had actively suppressed evidence and intimidated witnesses. The coordinated arrests included 2 senior police officials, a family court judge, and several prominent business leaders. Each arrest revealed additional layers of corruption, demonstrating how thoroughly Bennett had compromised the community's protective systems. The Winchester Police Department underwent immediate reorganization. Chief Thompson, with full departmental support, suspended officers implicated in suppressing evidence related to the Miller case. Internal Affairs launched comprehensive reviews of all cases involving these officers, particularly those concerning child welfare. The department's Integrity Unit established new protocols designed to prevent future manipulation of investigations. Sarah Parker received formal vindication when the State Veterinary Board not only dismissed all complaints against her but also commended her professional judgment in supporting Charlie's continued involvement in the investigation. The board's official statement acknowledged the crucial role of trained service animals in law enforcement and established new guidelines for evaluating their ongoing capabilities after retirement. Officer Anderson's original case notes, previously questioned by Internal Affairs, received thorough verification through forensic analysis. His detailed documentation of Thomas Miller's attempts to work within the system before taking direct action provided crucial context for understanding the events leading to Jacob's disappearance. The department officially recognized Anderson's integrity in maintaining accurate records despite pressure to alter his reports. The Winchester Herald published a comprehensive expose detailing how Bennett had systematically intimidated local media to suppress coverage of abuse allegations. Editor Patricia Reynolds included a formal apology for the paper's previous skepticism toward the investigation, acknowledging how financial pressure had influenced their editorial decisions. The article sparked a national discussion about media independence and responsibility. Local government officials who had opposed the investigation faced public demands for accountability. The city council established an independent commission to review all decisions influenced by Bennett's network, particularly those affecting child welfare services. Several council members resigned as their connections to Bennett's activities became public, forcing special elections to restore community leadership. Professional organizations throughout Winchester initiated reviews of their ethical guidelines. The Bar Association began disbarment proceedings against attorneys who had facilitated Bennett's interference with justice. The Medical Society revoked licenses from healthcare providers who had failed to report clear evidence of abuse, establishing stricter reporting requirements for future cases. Charlie's role in exposing the truth received formal recognition from law enforcement agencies across the state. The department's K-9 training program incorporated lessons from his persistent investigation, developing new protocols for recognizing and supporting service animals' continued capabilities after retirement. His dedication helped establish new standards for evaluating retired police dogs' potential contributions to ongoing investigations. The resolution of the Miller case culminated in a series of remarkable reunions at the Winchester Police Department. Jacob Miller, now 16, returned to Winchester accompanied by his protective detail from the Witness Protection Program. His arrival marked the first public confirmation of his safety and validated Thomas Miller's desperate intervention 6 years earlier. The young man's composed demeanor and clear articulation of his experiences provided compelling testimony about his uncle's protective actions. Catherine Miller's completion of rehabilitation enabled her to reunite with her son under carefully supervised conditions. Their initial meeting, facilitated by professional counselors, revealed the complex emotional impact of their separation. Catherine's recovery had given her the strength to acknowledge both her past failures and her brother's courage in protecting Jacob when she could not. Her testimony proved instrumental in understanding the full scope of Bennett's systematic abuse. Officer Anderson's presence at the reunion carried particular significance. Despite his weakened condition, he insisted on attending to witness the culmination of his former partner's mission. Jacob immediately recognized Anderson, remembering his kindness during their brief interactions before his departure. Their conversation provided crucial context about Thomas Miller's careful coordination with trusted law enforcement personnel before implementing his protection plan. The professional vindication of Sarah Parker occurred during a formal ceremony where the State Veterinary Association presented her with a Distinguished Service Award. Her unwavering support of Charlie's involvement, despite significant personal and professional risks, established new protocols for recognizing the ongoing capabilities of retired service animals. The ceremony highlighted how her medical expertise had sustained Charlie through his critical final investigation. Charlie's behavior during these events demonstrated remarkable awareness of their significance. His physical exhaustion became evident, yet he maintained his characteristic alertness when Jacob approached. The interaction between the retired police dog and the young man he had helped protect created a powerful moment of recognition. Jacob knelt beside Charlie, acknowledging the dog's role in revealing the truth about his uncle's protective intervention. The Winchester community's healing process began with a memorial service honoring Thomas Miller's sacrifice. Former military colleagues provided testimony about his distinguished service record and expertise in protecting vulnerable individuals. The ceremony transformed public understanding of his actions, replacing earlier misconceptions with recognition of his courageous intervention to protect his nephew. District Attorney Harrison's public acknowledgement of the investigation's validity marked a crucial shift in official positions. His formal apology for initial skepticism, delivered during a press conference announcing Bennett's indictment, demonstrated how thoroughly the evidence had transformed official perspectives. His statement established new guidelines for evaluating complex cases involving protective intervention. The Parker family's rehabilitation within the community occurred gradually but definitively. Mark's reinstatement to his teaching position included a formal apology from the school board and recognition of his ethical stance during the investigation. Emily's return to school featured strong support from classmates who now understood her dedication to Charlie's mission. Sarah's veterinary practice experienced renewed community support as the full story of her professional judgment became public. Local law enforcement underwent significant cultural transformation following the case's resolution. Chief Thompson implemented new training protocols incorporating lessons from the Miller investigation, particularly regarding the evaluation of complex family protection cases. The department established an annual award in Thomas Miller's name, recognizing officers who demonstrate exceptional commitment to protecting vulnerable individuals. The final gathering at the Parker residence allowed Charlie to formally conclude his mission. Surrounded by those who had supported the investigation, the retired police dog displayed visible relaxation as Jacob shared stories about his uncle's protective care. This peaceful resolution provided closure for all involved, particularly Charlie, whose unwavering dedication had finally brought the truth to light. The Winchester judicial system delivered unprecedented accountability in the aftermath of the Miller case resolution. Bennett's trial proceeded with remarkable efficiency, as the comprehensive evidence recovered from the ranger station facility left little room for legal maneuvering. The prosecution, led personally by District Attorney Harrison, presented a meticulous case that incorporated testimony from multiple jurisdictions. The Department of Justice initiated a comprehensive review of Winchester's law enforcement practices, implementing systemic reforms that extended far beyond the immediate case. Chief Thompson collaborated with federal authorities to establish new protocols for handling complex child protection cases, These procedures specifically addressed the vulnerabilities exposed by the investigation, incorporating safeguards against financial influence and institutional corruption. The Winchester Police Department underwent a transformative reorganization. The establishment of an independent oversight committee, comprised of civilian professionals with expertise in child welfare, ensured transparent evaluation of sensitive cases. This structural change represented a fundamental shift in departmental accountability, creating mechanisms for identifying and addressing potential conflicts of interest before they could compromise investigations. Professional licensing boards across multiple disciplines implemented stringent new requirements for reporting suspected abuse. The medical board mandated enhanced training for healthcare providers, while the Bar Association established strict guidelines for attorneys handling child welfare cases. These coordinated reforms created a comprehensive safety net designed to prevent future systematic failures in protecting vulnerable individuals. The state legislature responded with landmark legislation known as the Miller Protection Act. This comprehensive reform package strengthened whistleblower protections, established independent review processes for child welfare cases, and allocated significant resources for training law enforcement personnel in recognizing complex family protection situations. The legislation specifically acknowledged the legitimacy of evidence provided by retired service animals, creating formal protocols for incorporating their capabilities into ongoing investigations. Winchester's municipal government implemented substantial reforms in its administrative procedures. The City Council established an independent ethics commission with broad investigative powers, specifically tasked with monitoring potential conflicts of interest in child welfare cases. This institutional change prevented the type of systematic corruption that had previously compromised protective services. The judicial system underwent significant structural reform. The state Supreme Court established specialized family protection courts staffed by judges with extensive training in child welfare cases. These courts implemented transparent review processes that prevented the type of manipulation that had previously allowed Bennett's influence to obstruct justice. Educational institutions throughout Winchester adopted comprehensive safety protocols. The school district implemented mandatory reporting requirements that bypassed traditional administrative hierarchies, ensuring that concerns about student welfare received immediate, unfiltered attention from appropriate authorities. These changes prevented financial considerations from influencing decisions about student safety. Local law enforcement agencies across the state adopted the Winchester Protocol, a comprehensive set of guidelines for evaluating complex family protection cases. This standardized approach incorporated lessons from the Miller investigation, particularly regarding the recognition of sophisticated intervention strategies employed by trained professionals protecting vulnerable individuals. The Winchester Police Department's K-9 training facility underwent significant expansion, supported by federal funding allocated specifically for developing enhanced protocols for service animal deployment. The facility established new standards for evaluating and supporting retired police dogs, incorporating lessons from Charlie's crucial role in resolving the Miller case. These developments created a model program that gained national recognition for its innovative approach to utilizing service animal capabilities. The healing process commenced with a formal ceremony at Winchester Town Hall, where Mayor Eleanor Richardson delivered a public apology to both the Miller and Parker families. The event acknowledged the community's collective failure to protect Jacob and recognized the personal sacrifices made by those who pursued the truth. The ceremony established a foundation for community reconciliation while honoring the dedication of all involved in resolving the case. Jacob Miller's integration back into the Winchester community proceeded with remarkable sensitivity. The school district implemented a specialized support program, enabling him to resume his education while receiving necessary counseling services. His return to public life became a testament to resilience, as he actively participated in developing new protective services protocols, sharing his experiences to prevent similar situations from occurring. Catherine Miller's rehabilitation marked a significant milestone in the family's recovery. Through intensive therapy and support services, she rebuilt her relationship with Jacob under professional guidance. Their healing process became a model for family reunification programs, demonstrating how proper support services could help repair relationships damaged by trauma and separation. The Parker family experienced profound healing as their reputation was restored. Mark received a formal apology from the school board, accompanied by reinstatement to his former teaching position with additional responsibilities developing student safety protocols. Sarah's veterinary practice flourished as the community recognized her professional integrity and dedication to justice. Emily returned to academic excellence, her experience informing her growing interest in child advocacy and animal-assisted therapy. Officer Anderson's recovery accelerated as the strain of uncertainty lifted. His medical team noted significant improvement in his condition once the truth emerged and justice was served. The department officially recognized his unwavering dedication, establishing a mentorship program in his name to guide young officers in handling complex family protection cases. Charlie's health stabilized as his mission reached completion. Sarah's professional care, combined with reduced stress, enabled him to regain strength. His presence at community events became a powerful symbol of dedication and loyalty, inspiring a new generation of K-9 officers and their handlers. The department established an annual award in his name, recognizing exceptional service in protecting vulnerable individuals. The Winchester community initiated various healing programs. Local churches and civic organizations established support groups for families affected by domestic violence. Professional counseling services offered specialized programs addressing the complex trauma experienced by families in crisis. These initiatives created a comprehensive support network preventing future cases of systematic abuse. The local business community demonstrated commitment to healing through establishing the Winchester Family Protection Fund. This initiative provided resources for families needing emergency assistance, ensuring that financial constraints would never again prevent access to protective services. The fund specifically supported programs developing innovative approaches to family protection and child welfare. Educational institutions implemented comprehensive healing programs. Schools established counseling services addressing trauma-related learning challenges. Teachers received specialized training in supporting students from troubled backgrounds. These programs created safe environments where students could seek help without fear of stigma or retaliation. The healing process extended to law enforcement personnel who had been manipulated by Bennett's influence. The department provided counseling services and professional support to officers struggling with guilt over their unwitting participation in suppressing evidence. This initiative helped restore trust between law enforcement and the community while ensuring officers received necessary emotional support. The most extraordinary revelation occurred during Jacob's high school graduation ceremony at Winchester High School. As Jacob approached the podium to deliver his valedictorian speech, movement at the auditorium's entrance caught Charlie's attention. The retired police dog, resting beside Officer Anderson, suddenly raised his head and emitted a soft, recognizable signal. Through the doorway stepped Thomas Miller, very much alive, wearing his military dress uniform. The truth emerged through carefully preserved documentation. Thomas Miller had not perished during the initial escape, but had strategically orchestrated the appearance of his death. His military expertise in protective operations had enabled him to create an elaborate deception, ensuring Jacob's safety while maintaining surveillance on Bennett's activities. Miller had coordinated with a select group of trusted military colleagues who helped maintain his cover while he protected his nephew from a distance. Miller's survival had remained concealed until Bennett's conviction eliminated all threats to Jacob's safety. The sophisticated ranger station facility had served not only as an evidence repository but also as a command center from which Miller monitored the investigation's progress. The mysterious figures observed near the Parker property had been Miller himself, carefully evaluating Charlie's recognition of his presence and the investigation's direction. Officer Anderson revealed that he had discovered Miller's survival months earlier but had maintained silence to protect the ongoing investigation. The fall that ended his career had actually occurred during a coordinated effort to help Miller establish his cover story. Anderson's apparent retirement had provided him the freedom to assist Miller's protective operation while maintaining plausible deniability. Charlie's behavior throughout the investigation took on new meaning as the full scope of Miller's strategy became clear. The dog had recognized Miller's scent from their previous encounters, but had instinctively understood the need for discretion. His focused attention on specific locations had been responses to Miller's careful placement of evidence, creating a trail that only a trained K-9 officer could follow. The graduation ceremony transformed into an emotional reunion. Catherine Miller, now fully recovered, embraced her brother as the audience witnessed the restoration of a family torn apart by circumstance but reunited through unwavering dedication. Jacob's speech, prepared without knowledge of his uncle's survival, became an impromptu testimony to the power of protection and perseverance. The Winchester community's response to Miller's return demonstrated remarkable evolution. The same institutions that had once condemned his actions now recognized his extraordinary sacrifice and professional expertise. His protection strategy became a model for legitimate intervention in cases where traditional protective services prove inadequate. Sarah Parker discovered that her professional instincts about Charlie's behavior had been more accurate than she realized. The dog's apparent decline had partially been a response to the stress of maintaining secrecy about Miller's presence. With the truth revealed, Charlie's health improved dramatically, his mission finally and truly complete. Emily Parker's detailed documentation of Charlie's behavior patterns proved invaluable in understanding the sophistication of Miller's operation. Her childhood perspective had captured subtle details that adult observers had missed, creating a comprehensive record of how Miller had carefully orchestrated the investigation's progression. The revelation of Miller's survival provided the final validation of every decision made by those who had supported the investigation. The Parker family's dedication, Anderson's sacrifice, and Charlie's persistence had all contributed to creating the circumstances necessary for justice to prevail and a family to heal. We'd love to hear your perspective on Charlie's remarkable journey. What touched you most? Was it his unwavering loyalty, Thomas Miller's sacrifice, or the power of truth prevailing against all odds? Share your thoughts in the comments below on how this story of dedication and justice resonates with you, especially regarding the bond between humans and their faithful companions. If you appreciate meaningful stories that celebrate courage, loyalty, and justice, join our growing community by subscribing and activating notifications. We're committed to bringing you carefully curated narratives that inspire and touch hearts, showcasing the extraordinary connections between humans and animals that make our world better. Found this story moving? Share it with friends and family who would appreciate a tale of unconditional loyalty and justice. Every share helps spread awareness about the incredible impact of service animals and the importance of standing up for what's right, no matter the odds. Together, we can inspire more people with stories that remind us of the extraordinary bonds that connect us all.